So I think there's been some impressive news lately when it comes to Algorand. And let me explain what that is, and I'll talk about later about the recent recovery when it comes to Algorand. But first, I want to clarify nothing I say is financial advice, and this is just purely my perspective. But I'll talk about what they recently posted first before I talk about the charts. So did you know that Algorand recently posted how they have been added to the JVCEA green list? What is this, right? It's basically a register of projects within the space that are approved for fast-track listings across Japanese exchanges. So that's the thing. This is pretty impressive because historically, it's not that easy to achieve something like this. This historically has been pretty difficult. So when I see something like Algorand being able to, again, be added to that list, seems pretty impressive to me. It's not like every single project could do that because not every single project is on that list. And if we think about it, the rules, the regulations there, it's really, I think sometimes a lot of people would consider it to be very having this high bar, right? And seeing something like Algorand again be added to the JVCEA green list, especially in Japan, very impressive in my opinion. And do I think that this has been kind of a major factor as to why Algorand has recovered almost 10% in the past 24 hours? I would arguably say maybe, because if we think about it, this is a pretty impressive achievement. Not every single, again, project could do this. So when people take a look at something like this, I think it sometimes may showcase just how arguably impressive Algorand could be considered in some cases. Now, if I take a look at it as well, I think also another milestone that Algorand achieved, which I think may have contributed to also, I guess, a certain extent to the recovery, is that Coinbase recently cited Algorand as one of the first and only blockchains with post-quantum security. That's pretty impressive. And also, not too long ago, keep in mind, Algorand, in terms of a blockchain, other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, it was the most cited in Google's quantum papers. So that was another pretty impressive thing. Now, we've seen the recovery when it comes to that, like what that caused to the charts not too long ago. But when I see what Coinbase stated not too long ago when it comes to Algorand, and also seeing again Algorand being added to the JVCEA green list, again, I think it's been a culmination. It's been like a stew, right? It's been like a, I guess, melting pot of these occurrences for Algorand that I think may have arguably contributed to the charts doing what it does. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, it's almost at 80 grand. It's not as of right now, but I'm saying people like to say, oh, is this only caused because of the Bitcoin recovery? Well, I think it probably had a slight role, but I think also the accomplishments that Algorand has achieved as of late, that right there is also, I think, something that may have caused it too, because a lot of other projects out there, unlike Algorand, which has recovered almost 40% in the past 30 days, a lot of projects out there haven't done that. But even besides that point, though, people like to tell me that, yeah, but Algorand is still down by quite a lot when compared to where it once was. True. Like, for instance, if I take a look at Algorand, let's say back in 2025, of course, at that point, or should I say at a certain point in 2025, it was just doing way better than right now. Like in 2025, for instance, in January, we saw an almost 4 billion market cap. So yeah, we're almost 4 times lower than that. But I would arguably say that Algorand has been achieving more things fundamentally right now when compared to before. I mean, sure, Algorand was already a very popular layer 1 blockchain at that time, but I feel like recently a lot of Algorand's fundamental qualities have been acknowledged a lot more when compared to before, which I think is actually a pretty impressive thing. Given the market conditions not being the best, we're seeing Algorand be acknowledged by that many large-scale entities. Take a look at, for instance, not too long ago, Google. We take a look at also what Coinbase mentioned. That's pretty impressive, I think, in my perspective. Now, also, the way I take a look at Algorand is that I know that it's never ever going to overtake like Ethereum, but it doesn't really need to anyways. Not every single layer 1 blockchain can be that massive. But really, at the end of the day, if we're taking a look at something like Algorand, if it could just go back to around a 4 billion market cap, I'm already going to Sizzler. So it's not like I really needed to do anything so impressive. But yeah, besides that point, and of course I'm talking about Sizzler, the restaurant, my favorite of all time. But besides that point though, Algorand also, in terms of the tokenomics, what I like about it is that the maximum supply is 10 billion, but the current circulating supply is around almost 9 billion. So in terms of that hypothetical inflation, it's not like such a major concern for me when compared to some other projects out there. Now, granted, of course, Solana has measures to mitigate its inflation, and also something like Dogecoin. But Solana and Dogecoin have an infinite maximum supply, in which sense the maximum supply is infinity. But I just don't see that when it comes to Algorand. Now, granted, does it mean they're going to do bad as a result of that maximum supply being infinity? No, I mean, clearly they're bigger than Algorand as of right now, but I'm just saying, when it comes to that hypothetical inflation moving forward, I'm just not so overly concerned when it comes to Algorand as I am with some other projects. I'm not concerned with Algorand. However, I just want to clarify, I'm not concerned with either Solana or Dogecoin, by the way. I'm just saying though, I'm using that as an example of projects that have an infinite maximum supply just because they're very popular. So I just use that as an example. But I'm just saying, for some other projects out there, because the supply is infinity, if they don't have good measures in place, sometimes it doesn't become such a hypothetically good thing. So when I take a look at this right here, that's also another thing that I do like, not to mention Algorand having an aspect of ISO 20022, I think is also such a major kind of point for me to look at, because a lot of other projects out there, they don't have an aspect of that. And a lot of people don't really expect that with Algorand either, because they kind of view Algorand as, oh, it's kind of this boring project, who really cares? But you know what? It does have an aspect of ISO 20022, which I think is very impressive, right? If it's impressive for Ripple, and let's say in the case of Stellar, if it's impressive for them having an aspect of ISO 20022, I find it equally as impressive here. It doesn't take anything away from Ripple or Stellar, but I'm just saying, if it's found to be impressive in those cases, I also find it to be impressive here. When it comes to Algorand too, a lot of people like to tell me that, wow, this is going to be forgotten about if there's a hypothetical altcoin season. But keep in mind, it's currently ranked 56th in the world in terms of market cap. It's not some small project that we've never heard of. That's actually not really the case. It's pretty massive. And also on top of that, I just have a hard time believing a project of this size could just randomly become forgotten about if the market were to pick up. But yeah, besides that point, as of right now, my kind of mission stays the same. I'm not trying to chase the next microcap. I'm not trying to, I guess, try to believe in whatever is being hyped up. No, that's not me. I'm just trying to focus on the projects that I'm focused on. I'm staying patient with it, holding and waiting. That's really about it. I'm not about chasing. I'm all about waiting and anticipating. That's it. However, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a very nice day. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.